Ceasefire in Ukraine? Not so fast. President Trump is pushing for peace, but Putin isn't biting just yet. The Kremlin has laid out demands that could keep this war dragging on for years. Russia wants military aid to Ukraine cut off, security guarantees in writing, and a halt to NATO expansion. And if they don't get what they want, that's right, they're prepared to keep fighting through 2026 and beyond. So the real question is this a genuine peace effort, or is Putin setting a trap? Don't forget to like and subscribe for more hard-hitting geopolitical analysis. And if you want to support the channel, check out the links below. Let's break it down. In a bold move, President Trump has proposed a 30-day ceasefire in Ukraine, aiming to halt hostilities and pave the way for peace talks. On paper, sounds like a step towards ending the war. Ukraine gets a breather, Russia faces international pressure, and the West can regroup. But Putin isn't exactly eager to sign on the dotted line. Russia's response? Conditions, conditions, and more conditions. Putin wants Western military aid to Ukraine completely frozen, NATO to halt further expansion, and security guarantees for Russia's long-term interests. Without these, he's in no rush to negotiate. And here's the thing. This isn't the first time Russia has entered ceasefire talks while keeping one hand on the trigger. Back in 2014, during the first invasion of Ukraine, Russia agreed to the Minsk Accords, only to violate them repeatedly. If history teaches anything, it's that Russia's promises on paper don't match its actions on the battlefield. So are these real demands, or is Putin just stalling? According to Kremlin insiders, this is a deliberate strategy. By dragging out negotiations, Russia can buy time to reinforce its military, secure more arms from China and Iran, and wait for Western fatigue to set in. Recent reports confirm that while Russia claims to be engaging in diplomacy, it's buying hundreds of drones from Iran and receiving artillery shells from North Korea. That's not exactly the behavior of a country looking for peace. It's the behavior of a country preparing for a longer war. Economically, Russia's already adapted to the sanctions. They've rerouted trade and are securing deals with non-Western allies. This resilience, it allows Putin to play the long game, betting that Western support for Ukraine will weaken over time. And if Trump's ceasefire efforts don't align with Russia's conditions, the war drags on. And here's the big geopolitical shift. Europe is getting nervous. With Trump prioritizing an American-first approach, Europe leaders are wondering whether they'll have to foot the bill for Ukraine's survival. If Trump forces a ceasefire in Ukraine, without strong terms, Europe might have no choice but to negotiate with Russia on their own. Trump has always been a critic of endless wars, and he's determined to end this one on his terms. He's already warning European allies that the U.S. won't bankroll Ukraine forever. Military aid has already been on the chopping block. But what does peace actually look like? If Ukraine is forced to the negotiating table too soon, they could be locked into permanent territorial losses. Russia currently occupies about 18% of Ukraine, including key industrial and agricultural regions. If Ukraine is pushed into a deal before regaining territory, these losses could become permanent. And history shows us that when wars are frozen instead of decisively won, they can become long-term conflicts that simmer for decades. The Korean War, for example, ended in a ceasefire, but technically, North and South Korea are still at war today. Is that the kind of peace that Ukraine is walking into? On the other hand, if Trump can push the right diplomatic buttons, this ceasefire could be the first step toward a broader peace agreement. So who's really in control here, Trump or Putin? And then there's the global reaction to this ceasefire proposal. Ukrainian President Zelensky has been clear. He won't accept the deal that locks in Russian territorial gains. European allies are split. Some are ready to negotiate, while others want to hold the line against Russian aggression. Meanwhile, China, quietly backing Russia, is pushing for its own peace plan that subtly favors Moscow's territorial claims. If China gets its way, the West could lose even more ground in the global balance of power. And let's not forget, if the ceasefire goes south and fighting resumes on a longer scale, we're looking at a potential NATO crisis. The more Russia pushes the limits, the more pressure NATO faces to respond directly. That's when things could get really dangerous. So, what lies ahead? What happens next? Is this ceasefire the start of peace, or is Putin playing a long game to outmaneuver Trump? One thing is clear. This is a high-stakes moment that could shape the next phase of global power dynamics. Let us know in the comments. Is Trump making the right move, or is Putin setting a trap? Don't forget to like, subscribe. This is Frank for America's Geopolitics. See you next time.